I am B-Nisan, Chairman of the Young Assyrians of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, and I'll be your MC for this afternoon. On behalf of the Organising Committee of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation, I would like to welcome you all to the official opening of the Assyrian New Year Festival, and I hope you will have an enjoyable afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, can I kindly ask that you be upstanding for the Australian National Anthem, followed by the Assyrian National Anthem, which will be performed by Miss Jessica Ablahad. Thank you, Jessica. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to formally welcome all of the guests that are here present today. Reverend Father Ninos Elia, Mr. Herman Shaheen, Deputy Secretary General of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, Mr. David, President of the Assyrian Australian National Federation, Mr. Simon Isavian, Executive Board Member of the AUA, Mr. Tony McCartan and Associates, Senator the Honourable Concetta Fiorenzi-Wells, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Social Services, representing Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Tony Abbott MP, the Honourable Chris Bowen MP, Federal Member for McMahon, representing the Honourable Bill Shorten MP, Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Frank Carboni, Mayor of Fairfield City Council, Mr. Craig Kelly MP, Federal Member for Hughes, Mr. Chris Hayes MP, Federal Member for Fowler, Chief Opposition Whip, the Honourable David Clark MLC, Parliamentary Secretary for Justice, representing the Honourable Barry O'Farrell MP, Premier of New South Wales, Deputy Chairman of the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group. Reverend the Honourable Fred Nile, MLC, Assistant President, Member of the Christian Democratic Party, Mr Guy Zingari MP, State Member for Fairfield, Shadow Minister for Citizenship and Communities, Deputy Chairman of the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group and Shadow Minister for Sport and Recreation, Mrs Tanya Davies MP, Member for Mulgawa, Mr Nick Lalich MP, Member for Cabramatta, the Honourable Paul Green MLC, Temporary Chair of Committees and Mrs Green, Mr Glenn Brooks MP, State Member for East Hills, Superintendent Peter Lennon, Fairfield Local Area Commander, Professor Frank Zumbo, Mr Yaya Miller, President of the New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies, and Mrs Sandra Levi Miller, Mr Kruno Kukic, State Director New South Wales and Global Manager of Refugee and Humanitarian Visas and Global Manager Family Visas, Maria Hatsis-Turgos, New South Wales Settlement and Multicultural Affairs, Department of Social Services, Mrs Karen Boss and Mr Kerry Boss of Christian Faith and Freedom, Dr Imam Sharobim, Manager, Immigrant Women's Health Services, Mr Ian Becker, Board Chairman of the Liverpool Fairfield Community Radio Cooperative, 2GLF-FM, Mr Varujan Iskandarian, Australian Representative of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, and Mrs Iskandarian, Mrs Susie David, Advisor to the Secretary General of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, Mr Paul Azzo, Senior Advisor to the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation, Mrs Carmen Lazar, OAM, People of Australia Ambassador, and Mr Sargon Lazar, Mr Vince Fody, President of Marconi Club, Mr Frank Oliveri, Director of Marconi Club, Mr George Dedishu, Vice Chairman of the Young Assyrians of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, Mr Konstantin Kyriakides, President of the United Pontian Benevolent Brotherhood of New South Wales, and Mrs Kyriakides, Councillor Peter Paulus from Rockdale City Council. Our guests today from Fairfield City Council, Councillor Ninos Kashaba, Councillor Joe Maluso and Mrs Maluso, Councillor George Barcher, Councillor Del Bennett, Councillor Charbel Saliba. I also have a special welcome to our guests from the Assyrian homeland, in particular delegates of the Assyrian organisations, Mr Halan Gorgis and Mr Dr Louise Gorgis, and our delegates from Assyrian organisations that are present here today, the Assyrian Australian Association, the Assyrian Academic Society, Assyrian Aid Society Australia, Assyrian Badawat Association, Assyrian Charity and Educational Community, Assyrian Democratic Party, Assyrian Khabur Social Association, Assyrian National Conference, Assyrian Sports and Cultural Club, Bet Nahrain Democratic Party, entity of Ben El Nahrain, New South Wales Babylon Cultural Association, and the United Syrian Party of Australia. I'd also like to acknowledge the members of Assyrian media that are here today, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson Yunan, Head of SBS Radio Assyrian Program, Dr. Muwafaq Sawa and Ms. Haifa Mati from Al Iraqiya newspaper, Mr. Redmond Zumaya, Sabri Ushana and Sargon Zumaya from NinevehRadio.com and Nineveh TV, Mrs. Widad Farhan and Mr. Bakr Al-Malsawi from Panorama newspaper. I'd like to also acknowledge our prominent community members that are here today, Mr. and Mrs. Fred David from David Legal, Dr. Benjamin Dawood and Mrs. Dawood, Dr. David Yuchanis, Dr. John Atto, Mr. Anwar Atto, Mr. and Mrs. Tony Jawaro, Mr. Isaac Yuchanna, AANF Advisor, Mr. and Mrs. Shura Michalian, Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin, AUA Advisor, Mr. and Mrs. Nabil Mirad, Mr. Rennie Barco, Mr. Amir Lazar, Mr. Ramel Youssef, and Ms. Natalie Isaac. I'd also like to welcome and congratulate our Assyrian Australia Day Award recipients for 2014, Mrs. Carmen Lazar, OAM, recipient of the Medal of Order of Australia, Mr. Basim Shamoun, Fairfield City Young Citizen of the Year, and Mr. Albert Mushi, Fairfield City Achievement Medallion. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to send out a big thanks to all our sponsors: Community Relation Commission, CRC for Multicultural New South Wales, Club Marconi, David Legal, Peter Warren, Chemist Works, Assyrian Australian Association, T&J Smash Repairs Pty Ltd, Mortgage Nest, Evolution Laser Clinics, Fairfield Forum Pharmacy, Ware Street Medical and Dental Centre, Century 21 Fairfield, Global World Group, iMedia, Anytime Fitness, Rennie's Car Wash and Cafe in Fairfield Heights. Your support and dedication, I believe, will be instrumental in making 2014 Assyrian New Year Festival a smashing success. Ladies and gentlemen, the list of apologies for this afternoon is Beatitude Marmil Isaiah, Metropolitan of the Assyrian Church of the East, Mr. Anthony Roberts, MP, Ms. Gladys Barajiklian, MP, Professor Gillian Triggs, President, Australian Human Rights Commission, Her Excellency Professor Marie Bashir, AC, CVO, the Honourable Scott Morrison, MP, the Honourable Julie Bishop, MP, Dr. John Kay, MLC, Councillor Lawrence White from Fairfield City Council, and Ms. Linda Ben Menashe, Community Relations Manager, New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to all of our guests this afternoon. Thank you for coming. Now, before we commence with the official program, I'd like to invite to the stage Reverend Father Ninos Elia of the Assyrian Church of the East to bless the festival with a prayer. Rabbi Pagzun.
Thank you, Ninos. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great privilege to be here once again, celebrating this ancient and significant event with you all. On behalf of His Beatitude Marmil Isaiah, I would like to wish you all a happy 6,764 Assyrian New Year. I would like to thank the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation for organising such an important and successful event. Again, thank you, and may God bless you. We will now say the prayer to bless this event in Basmalochun Chamach Shiluta Ta'iqarat Sluta. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Glory to you, Jesus, our conquering King, the brightness of the eternal Father, begotten without beginning before all times and things which came into being. We have no hope and expectation unless it be you, the Creator. by the prayers of the just and elect who have been approved by you from the beginning, pardon our sins and forgive our offences. Deliver us from all afflictions, answer our request, and bring us to the excellent light, and deliver us by the living sign of your holy cross from all harm, hidden or open. Lord, bless this gathering. Protect this beautiful country, Australia, that we now call home. Guide its leaders and protect its citizens. We also ask that you guide, protect, and bless the sons and daughters of the great Ninevites who repented by the preaching of Jonah. The sons and daughters of the nation which accepted your beloved Son Jesus Christ and carried the message of light and salvation to nations who were sitting in darkness and without hope. Today, more than ever, Lord, we ask for your merciful hand to help our Assyrian people who have been scattered around the world. We have no hope but you, Christ, the hope of our nature, now and at all times and forever and ever. Amen. Happy Assyrian New Year, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Elia, for such a beautiful prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now call upon the President of the Assyrian Australian National Federation to officially welcome you to today's celebration. Please make welcome Mr. David David.
Thank you, Ninas. Reverend Fathers, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Committee of the Assyrian Australian National Federation, I would like to welcome you all to this year's 9th Annual Assyrian New Year Festival. As we enter 6764, I would like to thank our committees and volunteers for their hard work and commitments to the festival, and also our sponsors for their ongoing support. We also extend our appreciation to Fairfield Police, in particular Fairfield Police Commander Superintendent Peter Lennon. Today, Assyrians are celebrating this day worldwide. We wish all Assyrians a happy new year, in particular those remaining in our homeland and neighboring countries. I hope that you all enjoy this wonderful celebration and take away memories of an enjoyable festival. Thank you all for your support over the years. I hope you all have a happy Assyrian New Year 6764. Thanks and God bless you all. Now I will say a few words in Assyrian. مقلسي قشيشة ميقرأ هرم الشاهين خلب ناطر رازت خيادة ولايات ورايا أرخي ومشتعلانة اتهكمة دبرانة ومشتعلانة وقيومة شتاسا امتناية آتوراية قب بوليتقاية وكل نايد كل قيومة آتوراية وبريشايد قيوما من أطرة خبيبة أطرد أوهاتي أطرد بتنهرن دينتي لخا أباني قبولي وخرابة بشينا وإتلي هي ويبنبلي خد خارة رابا شابيرة مني مجيبت ساعتا بنبرانتا اتبرعيوتا امتنيتا أطراية استراليا قابلوخني ويخ كلهم بشينا بنوني وبناتت أمتا أطريتا وأرخي خبيبة جداها يوما طشئ تنايا وضيا يخيوتت أمتا أطريتا زياخة ربت خاب نيسان ريشيتا أطريتا قشوقي ويخو بغزايخ تشقيتا جبرتا أوهيتا اتشوا البشنة أها أمتا اتبخايلا وكل قومياته وأهولته وكنيات بوارا لإديوم يو مدنخا اتبغزايتهم ببرمان وقتلوا وأجزيات جربت تشخلبت تشموا وإيتوتو ومردوتو وتلقت التشقيتو وبلطهم أرقد أوهات خاومتا اتلا الصورة بداي أرأى الشواء البشن ويولت لدوخه وهالا سهد مقوخنا قداي أرأى إن هالا هقوتا آطوريتا بياشا لخلطة بيغ بنون وبنات أمتا آطوريتا بأربطة قدزيات الدنيا زي يخي آها زياخا كالي أم أوضالي شتاسا جبا أمتا آطوريتا كل نائد خيدخ وشوق داور خشكان لبارا من سبب إديوم كلن إيوخ يخقي وندينوس رابا خيلنتا اتمخايل خالبا اتقطقطن وتالقتن وشلكتت أمتا آطوريتا ما أرأت أوهاتي بس أنا نقيتلا اتكلنا موضالي كالخ موضالي بلخخ إيدا بإيدا زيخخ موضالي ميقرخ أوضالي خامخ أها شمن تشيطنايا جبارة شمة آتورايا أرأى آتوريتا حقوتا آتوريتا رشيتا آتوريتا اتبيشا خوميتون طرتا دي الخرمزة بسيارة بأوضالي أو دي الجمويا لخا قد إديوم برمشة بخزق زودا من 15,000 برناشوتا جميتا كل خديتا زيوخي خطشقيتا أوهيتا جبرتا بطياني ونمنتا أنا من كل داني سندان سبونسرز اتويلو أني هيران قديني قد أخنا مصايا وخ إديوم كالخ وزيخخ أها زياخا كل أني صياته خلب صياته وكل أني بلخلو قمريس داها خرزة همنا نقلي تلاقي اشتاص قط ليه وخد ميخي اتلن اسرباص قط خينا بيتايا إنا بشقالي وخ خيلا وجرأتا من نوخن شتاسا جبا بنون وبناتت أمتن آطوريتا اتكلم بجماية وخ ومياقوري وخ أها يوما جبارة وتشيتنايا وهذا اتلي خبا وإقارة الله يموتت خيادتي ولا يا آطورايا وبريشايت ميقرا نينوس آرن الدها خرزة دي لمرخوطو وحرارا الشلان بد مرخطي وآها اكزيبيشن تغزيلو خون وخدريا خرزة شابيرة بش قالناها برست ودن تنطت منتا من كل أخون ومن كل داني زمارة وميوزيشنز وشوتاسن وكل برصوبة دينا بليخي دينا موية آها يوم الإيتوتا بمارة ونقي كل داني دينا يو أرعد أوهاتا ويداني يو أطروات مش خطوطها زي خياها يوما نطري آها يوما زي خربت خاد نيسان رشيد آطوريتا تشيطة جبرتت أوهاتي خاجي خيتا بشينة تنتية اتلي خبا إقارة قاتوخون مكيوبي وخريشة قديوخون وقاومتا آطوريتا وشمة قديشة آطورايا اتليتن الشخلافة قدية خيا جانوخون وخيا جانت أمتا آطوريتا هايتم باسي مرابا
Thank you, Mr. David. Ladies and gentlemen, just a correction, if I may, in our welcoming and our introduction. One of our organizations is actually the Assyrian Democratic Movement. The Assyrian Democratic Movement, we're glad to have you here to celebrate the Assyrian New Year. I'd also like to thank M1 Media. The messages are already starting to come through. We have viewers all over the world watching this live. We have viewers watching this live from the US and all over the world that are sending their Happy New Year messages. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the Mayor of our beautiful city. Please join us in welcoming our Mayor, Councillor Frank Carboni.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a real pleasure to be able to come together with the community in Fairfield City to celebrate one of our great celebrations, Assyrian New Year. As the Mayor, I'm proud to see so many people from so many diverse communities join us today in this celebration. And I'd like to welcome all our special guests. I'd like to welcome Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, representing the Prime Minister, Chris Bowen, Member for McMahon, representing the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorary David Clark, representing the Premier, Philip Ruddick, Federal Member for Barawa, Craig Kelly, the Federal Member for Hughes, Nick Lalich, the Federal Member for Cabramatta, Tanya Davies, the Member for Malgoa, Guy Zangari, the State Member for Fairfield, Reverend Fred Nile, MLC, and his wife, and of course my councillor colleagues, Councillor Kushaba, Councillor Saliba, Councillor Maluso and Councillor Bennett, and also our Fairfield LAC Commander Peter Lennon, and all the community groups and organisations that come together to make this day such a special day. Shlama Lahun. That's as good as I can get it. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, it's a real pleasure to be here. It's great that we're able to join together as a community with so many dignitaries, to come together to give each other our best wishes, to wish our families and our friends a better new year. Celebrating Assyrian New Year is always a joyous occasion. It's an occasion and a time that we can look back. We can look back and be grateful for our achievements as a community and as individuals. But it's also a time that we can look forward to better goals, look forward to a better year. And as we come together and wish each other better health and better prosperity, it's also an opportunity for us to reconnect with our faith, because I know the faith and family is very important to the Assyrian community, and on a day like this, it's a great occasion to do that. In our city, we are a very diverse community. We have more than 130 diverse communities, all from very different cultures. And the Assyrian community plays a very, very important part in our local community. It has embraced the Australian way of life. It has integrated. It has shared the rich culture that it has, culture that is known throughout the world, its inventions, its history, its traditions, its language, and more and more. But so the Assyrian community has come together to Fairfield City. It has embraced our way, but it has also shared its own traditions. And by sharing its own traditions, it's been able to make its own festivities and its own culture part and parcel of Fairfield City. The Assyrian New Year's Festival is now a festival that is renowned in the Fairfield City Council calendar. That's how important it is. And also, having known all those traditions, having earlier been part of the opening of the exhibition, it's even closer than what I thought, because I now learn that the beer, the snags and the pies were originally Assyrian. That's what I'm told. So we're even closer than what we thought. But a day like this is a special day. It's even more special for the Assyrian community. The Assyrian community came out here as migrants, and it's important that on days like this, celebrating Assyrian New Year in Australia and in Fairfield City, we recognise the sacrifices of those early Assyrian migrants, which many are here now. Many of them left their homes, they left their land. They came to a place for a new language. They came seeking opportunity, freedom of speech and democracy, and some even fleeing oppression. It's never easy to leave behind your family members. It's never easy to leave behind your home and to come to a new country. They have taken this opportunity, and through this opportunity, you have all made an immense contribution to our local city and to our country. You have successfully showcased your multicultural ways, and in doing so, you've made Fairfield City a much richer and diverse place, one that we can all live together in peace. And I congratulate you and thank you for all of that. But as the celebration of Assyrian New Year means even more to the Assyrian community, I understand that. It's about your identity. It's about maintaining your identity, your nationhood. Your community and your culture has stood the test of time, regardless of all the hurdles that it's had over many centuries. The celebrations today are celebrations that, whilst the Assyrian community is dispersed across the world, today the Assyrian community is together. It brings the whole community together in celebration, in unification, in acknowledging the wonderful traditions and heritage that you have. Because nobody can rewrite history, and no one can take away your faith or your identity or your naturehood. And no time will ever forget or can take away the past. It's through this persistence that's been shown through the Assyrian community, the persistence and time that's been given, that eventually I have no doubt that the progress for the Assyrian cause, through peace and through just cause and through the recognition of their homeland, will eventuate. It's also a show today of the respect and the high regard that many people have for the Assyrian community, to see so many dignitaries, politicians, community members, leaders of different organisations come together to join your celebration. It shows what a high regard they have for the local Assyrian community, and they have this because of the way that you've embraced your own heritage and the way you've embraced our own heritage here in Australia. And I congratulate you for all of that. I want to especially express my gratitude to all the Assyrian organisations that I see working very hard in our local council area. It's through them that we have a better area. They work very hard, not just on Assyrian issues, but on youth, on issues relating to the elderly, to make sure that those elderly are not forgotten and they are helped through in tough times. So I want to congratulate all the organisations, and especially so, I want to congratulate the AUA, people like David and Hermes Shaheen, who have made an outstanding contribution, not just locally, but also I know they worked very hard on a state level, on a federal level, and on an international level for Assyrian causes. They've shown themselves to be quite admirable and quite dedicated to their cause. And they are people and an organisation that you can all be proud of, and we can all be proud of as a community to have them based here in Fairfield City. Because through them, it's only through them and through their hard work that many issues can progress forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, just in closing, just want to say a few words in Assyrian. I didn't Google them, so no doubt they won't be right, but one of my councillor colleagues did tell me how to say them, so I have a go. Where are they here? Here we go. Hoya brikta rishit shita, kakule atu raihe, bazimraba.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of dedicated Assyrians, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the Deputy Secretary General of the Assyrian Universal Alliance. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Hermes Shaheen.
بني أمتي مغبة أمدي قمايا بوينتانن باروخيون ريش الشيتا آتوريتا الكل بني أمتن آتوراي كلي كتب أمارنا اتلهيوي مريا لها الشيتا وشنت بتاينا بتقاوي شنت منتيتا وخادوتا قومتن آتوريتا بتقاوي شنة اتقاها أمتا شقلة وقنية الخيروتو وخيا بشلامة ورهطوطة جو أرأت أوهاتا أرأت آتور قدشتا بني أمتي مغبي بطلبم بخلطة همزمتي أوديو إلى أختي بلشانة إنجلسنايا هويتم بسيمة Reverend Father, distinguished and honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this annual gathering. I compliment the Festival Organizing Committee for their great efforts in making all preparations for this memorable day. I express special appreciation to the honorable members of the Australian federal, state parliaments and local government for their presence today. We are very grateful to you all for raising the Assyrian issue on several occasions in the Senate, federal and state parliaments, calling on Australian government to support the rights of the indigenous Assyrian people in Iraq and Syria. A special welcome and thanks to the Honorable Reverend Fred Nile for the successful motion he raised in the Legislative Council of New South Wales Parliament in support of Nineveh province for Assyrians. I extend a warm welcome to Superintendent Peter Lennon and to his team and thank them for their enormous efforts and sacrifice to keep the community safe. I extend special welcome to all the Assyrians arriving from overseas who have joined this New Year celebration. I thank the Department of Immigration for providing them with visas. I just would like to acknowledge some of the guests, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Esam Yaqub Gorgis, Mr. Halan George Giwargis, Mr. Sargon Gisu, Mr. Jauhar Bia, and Dr. Luis Sliwu. We also welcome our friend representing the Armenian, Coptics, Greeks, and Assyrian organization and the prominent people in attendance with us. We were looking forward to having Mr. Muayyad Saleh, Iraqi's ambassador, attend this year's celebration to give us his views on the recent development in Iraq as they pertain to the future of Assyrians in their ancestors' land. Unfortunately, he withdrew at the last minute, having previously accepted our invitation. We hope that he can attend our next major gatherings. Every year we celebrate this ancient festival, which is a heritage that has been passed to us from generations to generation, linking us to a great civilization that arose in Assyria in the dawn of history and shed its enduring light on humanity. The celebration of the Assyrian New Year is a national tradition that we have treasured and carried regardless of the adversities that have befallen us. It brings hope to our hearts and reflects our determination for survival. It binds us to our history, heritage, language, faith, and moral characteristics, which we have managed to preserve in the face of centuries of hardship. In observing this tradition, we too pass on to the next generation that which has been entrusted to us. Yet this is not enough to secure the future of our people as a viable nation. The human rights situation of Assyrian people in the Middle East, particularly in Syria and Iraq, is worsening, and the civil and political rights continue to deteriorate. Our people are facing racial and cultural attacks and economic pressure in an effort to uproot them from our ancestral lands. Our population in the homeland has dwindled to less than half of its number before the war. Every day, Iraqi Assyrians are losing part of their territories to the occupier in the north and are forced by extremists to flee major towns and cities. Ladies and gentlemen, on 20th of January 2014, Iraqi Council of Ministers, led by the Honorable Nouri al-Maliki, Prime Minister of Iraq, decided in principle to create 3 new provinces from contested part of the country. A statement said the cabinet has agreed in principle to turn the areas of Tus, Fallujah, and the Nineveh Plain into provinces, and the cabinet will decide after the fulfillment of the necessary requirement. It did not give a reason for the decision. Assyrians have been demanding a dedicated province status at Nineveh Plain for years. Iraqi Christians living abroad have welcomed the news and are cautiously optimistic that the Iraqi government will in fact act positively on its decision about the Nineveh Plain province. If implemented, this decision will mark a pivotal point in the life of the new Iraq and its drive toward democracy, security, and cultural preservation for all its inhabitants, especially the indigenous Assyrians. We ask that the Australian government endorse and support the Nineveh Plain province solution, which entails the development of a self-governed Assyrian province in the Nineveh Plain under the jurisdiction of the central government of the Federal Republic of Iraq. We also ask the Australian government to offer political support in favor of this policy in its dealings with the government of Iraq, and to make sure that the borders and the law of this proposed province will be made in a way that will serve and protect the rights and purpose of the establishment of the Nineveh province for the Assyrians in Iraq. We hope that with a common resolve and united voice, we can remind the world that there are Christian communities in the Middle East, such as the Copts of Egypt and the Assyrians of Iraq and Syria, who are facing oppression and violence every day, and help them secure their rights and consequently their future. In conclusion, I express our gratitude to everyone for attending this New Year celebration. We extend our thanks and gratitude to all our generous sponsors who continue to support our events every year, and to all those who are supporting the Assyrian Universal Alliance, particularly the young Assyrians of the AUA, Mrs. Susie David and Mr. Paul Azu, for their exceptional contribution to this organization. I wish you all a happy, peaceful, and prosperous Assyrian New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaheen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have some entertainment for you. Some beautifully dressed and talented dancers led by Mr. Yuhanna Khamis, who has 40 years experience as a dance teacher. Please welcome to the stage the Assyrian Star Folkloric Dancing Group.
دومتها قدم مثل بقولتها وبوي لعنة دوزها يوم قد خين صوتها قمت انا جبت يا رايه فمو خمرت خمنايه خابو شدفاتهم جيلو عينو شومد بزنايه قمت انا جبت يا رايه فمو خمرت خمنايه خابو شدفاتهم جيلو عينو شومد بزنايه يا ريتها وبزليلة خمنيتا لا من جيلو لا من باس لا من برور وأشيتا لا من قلبك وأرادين لم ترى بدين دي زرتا لم أرمي ولم سلامت ولا ليلة شوطانيتا لا من قلبك وأرادين لم ترى بدين دي زرتا لم أرمي ولم سلامت ولا ليلة شوطانيتا لا ليلة يا قوميتا لا منيتت ما بنخا لا ليلة تلك بنيتا مغيت برات دومتا عايلة أكوريتا مغيت برات دومتا عايلة أكوريتا برات دومتا قدم مدلب قبلتا خبوني لعنة دوتا قوم قد خيم صوتا قمت ناجبت يا رايب أمو قمرت خمناي أبو شدفاتم جيلو عينو جومت بزناي قمت ناجبت يا رايب أمو قمرت خمناي أبو شدفاتم جيلو عينو جومت بزناي لا ليلة يا قوميتا لا منيتت ما بنخا لا ليلة تلك بنيتا مغيت برات دومتا عايلة أطوريتا مغيت برات دومتا عايلة أطوريتا.
Thank you, that was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, to continue on with our program, please join me to welcome our next speaker, who for years has made many representation on behalf of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and provided valuable support to the Assyrian community and always stands up for the rights of Assyrian people in Iraq. Senator, the Honourable Conchetta Venti Wells, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Social Services, representing Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Tony Abbott.
Thank you, Ninos, and well done with your young Assyrians. Can I start by acknowledging my many federal and state parliamentary colleagues, Mayor, local councillors, Reverend Fathers, Hamiz Shaheen and the many officials and members of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, to David and members of the Assyrian Australian National Federation, many distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to once again join you in these celebrations as I have done over the years. And it's my pleasure to be here today to represent the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Tony Abbott, who sends his apologies for not being able to join us, but he has asked me to pass on his best wishes and read the following message on his behalf. I'm pleased to send my best wishes to members of the Assyrian Australian community who are celebrating Assyrian New Year. I congratulate the Assyrian Universal Alliance Australian chapter for your work in organising this year's Assyrian New Year Festival, bringing people together to celebrate the beginning of the year 6764. At this time, we reflect on the blessings in our lives and the happiness we share with family, friends and community. We express the hope that the new year will be a year of liberty and happiness for all citizens. There are over 10,000 Australians of Assyrian origin, and I pay tribute to the significant contribution they make to our country. Modern Australia is unimaginable without them. As a nation, we have found unity in our diversity, respect in our differences, and have built a modern nation on the idea that anyone can get ahead, provided they are prepared to have a go. I wish you a happy Assyrian New Year and trust it will usher in a year of good health, happiness and prosperity. The Honourable Tony Abbott MP, Prime Minister of Australia. It is a great occasion for all of the Assyrian community to come together and to celebrate this transition to the new year, to mark the beginning of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. This is an ancient tradition passed on from early Assyrians who lived in Mesopotamia. Your community provides a direct link between the ancient and the traditions. Your rich culture is embedded with the evolution of humanity and has helped to influence many forms of modern Christianity. Your language, Aramaic, was the language of our blessed Lord. Regrettably, the oppression of the Assyrians, often because of their faith, is also testimony to their resilience. And understandably, this persecution has meant that increasingly in past decades, thousands have sought refuge in the West. Indeed, Iraqis are the largest national group that have been resettled under our humanitarian program over the last 10 years, and the Australian government remains committed to the resettlement of vulnerable Iraqi minorities. This is a difficult and complex issue, and I would particularly like to pay tribute to those of you who have dedicated yourselves to raising awareness of the Assyrian issue. I would like to conclude by congratulating the contribution of the Australian Assyrian community and the contribution you have made to our great multicultural country, for sharing your culture and for contributing your unique gifts to our vibrant and diverse Australia. You have worked extremely hard to maintain your cultural heritage, while at the same time embracing and contributing to the broader Australian community. Congratulations to Hermes and David and to your organisations and sponsors for your contribution in hosting yet another successful event. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to join you, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, Senator. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is an old friend of the Assyrian community. On the 3rd of June 2013, he raised a historical motion in the federal parliament on the Assyrian demands for the establishment of an autonomous province in the heart of the Assyrian ancestral lands in the Nineveh Plains in northern Iraq. He was also presented with the Assyrian Universal Alliance Friend of Assyria Award in 2010 and the Gala Award in 2013 for helping our stranded Iraqi Assyrian refugees in the war-torn countries of Syria and Iraq. Please join me to welcome our next speaker, the Honourable Chris Bowen MP, Federal Member for McMahon, representing the Honourable Bill Shorten MP, Leader of the Opposition.
Shalom alaikum. Risha de Shita Hoya Brikta Gagule Ataraye. Basim Araba. Ahoya Aishita da Ataraye, Mashki Shlama ul Monteta Ika Dina Gundonye. My friends, parliamentary colleagues, Senator Fierravanti-Wells, Craig Kelly, Chris Hayes, state parliamentary colleagues, the Mayor of Fairfield, councillors, Father Ninos, distinguished guests, friends all. It's wonderful to be back with you yet again to celebrate this most important of occasions. Here in Fairfield, we have much to celebrate. We celebrate the Indigenous people of Australia and their heritage and their stewardship of our land, but here we can also celebrate the Indigenous people of Iraq, and one of the oldest heritages in the world, one of the great civilizations of the world, and its continuing impact on the cultures of the world. And today we celebrate 6,764 New Years, and what a thing it is to celebrate. And my friends, today we also have other things to celebrate. We celebrate the contribution of Assyrian Australians, which touches every part of our life and which was recognised so well on Australia Day, with Carmen Lazar being admitted to the Order of Australia in an honour well deserved, and also the recognition of Basim Shamoun and Albert Mushi in our own Fairfield City recognition awards. But my friends, we also recognise some small steps forward. We've said here before that we cannot truly celebrate until every Assyrian in the world, no matter where they live, whether it be Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, wherever they live in the world, can live in peace and harmony. We cannot truly celebrate until that is a fact. It is not yet a fact, but we have seen some progress. I'm very pleased with the progress towards an autonomous region in the Nineveh Plain. It represents an opportunity we cannot miss, an opportunity that we, the people of Iraq, the people of Australia and supporters of Assyrians around the world must embrace and progress, and we must make it an opportunity that we don't look back in 20 years and say we came so close, but we look back in 20 years and we say this is the day that Assyrians could live in freedom and harmony in Iraq. When that day comes, there will be great celebrations, and you can celebrate your own contribution, because without the contribution of Australians of Assyrian heritage, of Americans of Assyrian heritage, of Canadians of Assyrian heritage, then the Assyrians of Iraq would not reach freedom, because they rely on you, their brothers and sisters and cousins across the seas, to keep the flame of freedom alive, and you have done it so well. To Hermes Shahin and David, two tireless advocates for peace and harmony for the Assyrian people, thank you for your efforts. They represent your community so well. They leave no stone unturned. They leave no door unopened, and they fight with every breath in their body for the Assyrian people. To your young Assyrians who are taking the fight forward for the next generation and doing it so well, what a great organisation it is, and congratulations to the young Assyrians, because they will ensure the torch goes forward. My friends, the day will come when we can gather here in Fairfield and we can say, at last, the task has been achieved, and Assyrians in Iraq, Assyrians in Iran and Assyrians in Syria can live in freedom and harmony. It will not be tomorrow, it will not be the next day, but we are getting closer. We've made good progress. The resolutions in the Parliament have made a difference, but what makes more of a difference is your passion and your dedication on behalf of your brothers and sisters, your cousins, your parents, which you live so clearly and so passionately every day. Happy Assyrian New Year, and may we celebrate many, many more together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest has also provided valuable support to our Assyrian community over the last several years, and it always stands up for the rights of Assyrians and the Assyrian nation in our ancestral homeland in Iraq. Please join me in welcoming a true friend of Assyrians, Mr. Chris Hayes MP, Federal Member for Fowler, Chief Opposition Whip.
Thank you very much, Ninos. To David, Hermes Shahin, to the Mayor of Fairfield City Council, to my parliamentary colleagues, to the many distinguished guests here today. Tomorrow will be the first day of the ancient Babylon calendar in the year of 6764. Apart from the antiquity of that, it is also we celebrate now the legacy of that ancient calendar and the heritage which is enjoyed by all people of Assyrian heritage, and it is their direct contact with the ancient world. I have enjoyed working very closely with David and Hermes Shahin and many people of the Australian of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, in working towards what has been referred by Chris Bowen is a very historic position which has been taken, an in principle position that has been taken by the Iraq government. It's very, very important to realise that since 2003, over a million Assyrians, indigenous Assyrians, and other Christian minorities have been either killed or forcibly exiled from Iraq. They are the Aramaic speakers of the world, a language that has them in that region, as the calendar suggests, over 6,000 years. Regrettably, many of the Assyrians and other Christian minorities now find themselves as refugees in the Middle East, in refugee camps in Syria, Jordan, Turkey, and Lebanon. Australia has always welcomed Assyrians to this country. We have done very well out of that in terms of the Assyrian contribution, as also has been spoken about, in terms of what they've been able to contribute to our country in bringing culture, their traditions, and contributing to the great multicultural nature of this nation. But that's only part of the answer here. I think what we are looking for, what we are trying to work towards, is a permanent and sustainable solution for the Assyrian people in the Middle East. They are entitled to have a safe, protected area and region where they can live in peace, where they can maintain their culture, celebrate their traditions, and importantly, freely practice their religion. So I'd like to congratulate Hermes and David, who are very frequent visitors to my office, because I actually know how much work that they have done in terms of putting on the international agenda the issue of a protectorate within Iraq. And I, for one, was very happy to see the in-principle decision of the Al-Maliki administration in Iraq that for the Assyrians and other Christian minorities indicated that the Nevada Plains would be an appropriate region to set up a safe protectorate. This is something that I think it is not just for the government of Iraq. This actually requires substantial buy-in from all of us in the international community. We know that accepting refugees is something that we do because we believe in a humanitarian cause, but we must work towards providing a permanent and sustainable solution for the Assyrian people. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come together to celebrate New Year, I also have regard to the fact that this should be a time for celebration. This should be a time of spiritual renewal and also for reconciliation. So can I leave you with the prayer that we all join in this new year, that we ushers in a spirit of peace and reconciliation, particularly for those who remain oppressed and persecuted in the Middle East. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Guests, our next speaker spoke in support of the plight of Assyrians in Iraq and on many occasions in support of the historical reality of the Armenian, Greek and Assyrian genocide and calls for Australian recognition of these crimes against humanity. Please join me to welcome our friend on stage, our next speaker, Mr. Craig Kelly MP, Federal Member for Hughes.
To my many parliamentary colleagues that are here today, to our other distinguished guests, it's a great pleasure to be here to speak with you today. Now, over the past week, there has been much discussion here in Australia about freedom of speech. And I should start by saying that racism is absolutely abhorrent and has no place in our Australian society. However, the question is, how are we best to cure this cancer and to remove it from Australia? I say the best way is through freedom of speech. We should not allow racism to fester and to grow in the darkness. We should bring it into the open where it can be defeated, to bring it to the light of day where it will shrivel up and die. And with that, it brings me to an issue that I know is very dear to many people's hearts here today. And that is the issue of the Assyrian genocide. Now, we could legislate to make it a crime in this nation that denying the Assyrian genocide is against our laws. But would we be any better than other places of the world that make it an offence to mention the Assyrian genocide? I say the best way to honour the memories of those that died during that period and to ensure that it never happens again is through freedom of speech. To allow the historical facts, the historical documents to be debated out in the open amongst us all. And with that, that brings me to the issue of the autonomous region of the Nineveh Plains. I've spoken in favour of this in our federal parliament. And I believe the day is not that far away when we will be here celebrating the establishment of the Nineveh Plains Autonomous Region. And when that region is finally established, it must survive by the principles of democracy and freedom of speech, because we know they are the greatest ways that have protected human rights throughout the centuries. So with that, I'd like to finish and wish you all a happy Assyrian New Year. Rishit Shita Brikta. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage once again for another folkloric dance, the Assyrian Star Folkloric Dancing Group.
خشجاناج ما بتفات بتطما كل بتفياتي تراني شوبي تفاد بن خشوتا خبرات يم السوتا شازخ ما المدرسة اختن جابت كرديسة قالوا خشجاناج ما بتفات بتطما كل بتفياتي تراني شوبي تفاد بن خشوتا خبرات يم السوتا شازخ ما المدرسة اختن جابت كرديسة جان ضخا من بيتك جبل ضخا شني مختار برخون تربان مدرسة برخون حجمان أخرى يتيلون جبيت شفوتان شريلون شميلي شفوتان طيبالون من آلولان لبلالون شلالولا خادون يمل يم رابط أخرون آلولان سورة إيقالب شفوتي رابط سبيقا قايم چی آل دخوا من بیت چی پال دخوا شن مختار بخون تروان مدرسة بخون خجمان أخرى تيلون جو بيت شفوتن شيلون شميلي شفوتن طيبالون من آلولا لبلالون شل آلولا خدوني مليم رابط خروني آلولا سورة إيقا لبشفوتي رابط بيقا شل آلولا خدوني مليم رابط خروني آلولا سورة إيقا لبشفوتي رابط بيقا شل آلولا خدوني مليم رابط خروني آلولا سورة إيقا لبشفوتي رابط بيقا
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the State Director of New South Wales and Global Manager of Refugee and Humanitarian Visas and Global Manager for Family Visas. Please join me to welcome to the stage Mr. Kruno Kukoc.
Thank you. Senator, the Honourable Concerta Fairfield Wells, Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry of Social Services, Federal and State members, Mr. Hamish Shane, Deputy Secretary General of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, Mr. David, President of the Assyrian Australian National Federation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Mr. Shane, Mr. David, and the organising committees of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation for your kind invitation for me to attend today's event and address this event. It is my great pleasure to be here with you in Fairfield as we gather together to celebrate the most important day of the Assyrian calendar. There are more than 15,000 people of Assyrian descent living in New South Wales. 4 generations of Australian Assyrians have built a significant presence in the city of Fairfield, the heart of your community in Australia. You have worked hard to build an array of organisations and institutions which provide support to the community, in particular assisting humanitarian and refugee arrivals start their new lives in Australia. Your industriousness, courage and resilience, values for which have sustained your society for more than 65 centuries, have enabled the Assyrian community to make a valuable contribution to Australia's cultural, sporting and economic achievements. Of note, and I know there are many high achievers in your community, I'd like to mention Ms. Sue Ismail, who has created a successful natural health and personal care company, and the football player Ms. Alina Kamis, who has brilliantly represented Australia in the Under-19 World Cup. My department, the Department of Immigration and Border Protection, has a long history of working closely with the Assyrian community, both here in Australia and abroad. And we will continue to work with and to consult your community closely on all visa matters and on all citizenship matters. That will be in particular regarding the humanitarian and family visas and citizenship. In the last 5 years alone, 1,200 of Assyrians were granted humanitarian visas. At this point, I would also like to mention the important role that my colleagues in the Department of Social Services have in supporting the Australia's multicultural and settlement policy and maintaining Australia as a cohesive and multicultural society. This festival provides a great opportunity for the wider community to embrace Assyrian culture and its traditions. The Assyrian New Year Festival is a mark of new beginnings and aspirations for all. It is a day to move forward and to herald a fertile and prosperous new year. I know that the success of these very special events rely on the dedication and tireless efforts of many volunteers around us, and I would like to pass on my thanks and appreciation to you all for successful organisation of this event. On behalf of the Department of Immigration and Border Protection, I wish you all the best for this New Year Festival and for the coming year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kukic. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is well known for his determination in promoting the Assyrian national cause. He supported all the Assyrian Universal Alliance motions in the state parliament and supports the Assyrian rights back home as well. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable David Clark, MLC, Parliamentary Secretary for Justice, Deputy Chairman of the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group.
Well, distinguished guests and dear friends in the Assyrian Australian community, it's a great honour and joy to be here today representing the Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell, at this New Year's Assyrian celebration organised by the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation. And by the end of tonight, some 10 to 15,000 members of the Assyrian community would have passed through this great festival being held here today. And can I pay my respects to His Beatitude, Bishop Mamila Zaya, who gives such leadership to the Assyrian community. And today we grieve with him and other religious because of the persecution of the church, the murder of its bishops, the murder of its priests and nuns, the desecration of its church, the burning of its churches by Islamist terrorists in Syria and in Iraq. And when the final victory comes of the Assyrian people, and when the final chapter is written in that book, the name of His Grace, the Beatitude, Mamila Zaya, will figure there in prominence because he is a man of great integrity, a man cast in a hero's mould. Can I pay respects also to other ethnic communities who are here today because they've come along to give solidarity to the Assyrian people in their struggle for freedom, their struggle against international terrorism. Can I acknowledge that my parliamentary federal colleagues who are here, that each and every one of them have devoted themselves to supporting the Assyrian cause, and I acknowledge that. Whether it's from Labor or Liberal, whether it's from government or opposition, they're all there supporting the cause, and that is a wonderful thing. Can I also acknowledge my state parliamentary colleagues, especially those involved in the New South Wales Parliamentary Friends of the Assyrians, the Chairman Andy Rohan, the Deputy Chair together with myself, Guy Zangari, and members who are here, Glenn Brooks, Tanya Davies, Paul Green, and of course the great and wonderful and the one and only Fred Nile, all great members of the Parliamentary Friends of the Assyrians. And friends, can I tell you how proud I am to be here today, knowing that the New South Wales Parliament is the second parliament in the world after the Parliament of Sweden to officially recognise the genocide of 750,000 Assyrians under the Ottoman Empire. How proud I am that we have recognised that as the second parliament in all of the world. And I praise the Honourable Fred Nile for moving that in the upper house, and I praise the Premier of New South Wales for moving that resolution in the lower house, a resolution that was carried by every single member of the state parliament, every single member of all the parties. What a great and wonderful thing that was. Now, there were some who didn't like that. We know who they are, the usual suspects. They tried to intimidate the New South Wales Parliament. They tried to threaten the members of the New South Wales Parliament. But the members of the Parliament of New South Wales will not be intimidated, and they will not be threatened by people who are genocide deniers. Not now, and not ever will we be intimidated by these people. Can I tell you also how proud I am that only 11 days ago a resolution was moved by the Reverend the Honourable Fred Nile in the upper house of New South Wales supporting an autonomous region of Assyria, an autonomous region, and can I tell you, it was carried by every member of the Upper House of New South Wales. That is a first in the world, the first parliament to officially declare for an autonomous region, an autonomous state within Iraq. That is a great and wonderful achievement. Greater things are ahead for us, I have no doubt about that. Today, I join with other members in expressing outrage for the continuing persecution of the Assyrian people. For 2,000 years on and off, that persecution has continued against them because they refused to surrender their Christian faith. There was the genocide under the Ottoman Empire. There was the persecution under Saddam Hussein. Today there is the violence and murder of the Islamist terrorists in Iraq and Syria, but the terrorists will never succeed in subduing and conquering the Assyrian people. Friends, today is a great day to celebrate the achievements of the Assyrians, a people whose heritage goes back 7,000 years, a people who are mentioned in the Bible in the very earliest pages of that great book, a people who built at its time the greatest empire of the world, a people who are leaders in science and astronomy and other achievements for mankind, a people who built great cities like Nineveh and Babylon and Ur, the very first city in the history of mankind. I thank you for the invitation to be here today. I thank the Premier for asking me to represent him. When you ask me to come, I will come. When you ask me to speak, I will speak. When you ask me to do something, then I will do what you ask me to do, because it is for a good and noble purpose, a good and noble cause, for a good and noble people, for the Assyrian people and for the Assyrian nation. You ask me to do those things, and I will do them and join with the other members of the federal and state parliaments in working for those things. A nation who for 7,000 years has contributed to mankind. A nation who for 2,000 years has held fast to Christianity in the face of persecution and genocide. And a nation whose members through the Assyrian levies fought side by side with Australians in World War I, and who fought side by side with Australians in World War II, and who now fight side by side with all men and women of goodwill and decency and freedom around the world in working for the defeat of international Islamist terrorism. A war that we will win, we have no doubt about that. In my heart of hearts, dear friends, I believe that the Assyrian nation will never be destroyed. For 2,000 years they've been faithful to God. They've given testimony that our blessed Lord is indeed the Prince of Peace and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega and the beginning and the end. The Assyrian people have never deserted God, and God will not desert his Assyrian faithful either. Have no doubt about that. The Ottoman Empire is dead and buried. Saddam Hussein is dead and buried. International Islamic terrorism will be buried as well. The day is coming when the Assyrians will gain that autonomy and that freedom and that independence. That day is getting closer. That day will soon be here. Have a great 6,764th Assyrian New Year. God bless Australia, and God bless the Assyrian people and the Assyrian nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon our next speaker, who is the Deputy Chair for the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group. Please welcome the Friend of Assyria and the State Member for Fairfield, Shadow Minister for Citizenship and Communications and Shadow Minister for Sport and Recreation, Mr. Guy Zangari MP.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. How do you follow up after David Clark? One thing you learn in politics, they said, never do a speech after David. But obviously, as you know, David Clark is a true champion for the Assyrian people, and it is great to work with David in State Parliament as his co-chair of the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group. Well done to you, David. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, of course, the Cabral people of the Darug Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. To the Mayor of Fairfield City Council, Councillor Frank Carboni, to Father Ninos Elia, to Hermes Shaheen, to David, and of course to Simon Esavian, to David Clark, my parliamentary colleague and Deputy Chair of the Assyria Parliamentary Friendship Group, to federal, state and local government representatives, to Superintendent Peter Lennon from Fairfield LAC, to the Assyrian members of our community here in Fairfield. Hanimi umiakre, shlama lokon, sheta atureda brikta alhon, alaha baruk lohon, avitun basime. It is a great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, that I represent, of course, the leader of the New South Wales Labor opposition, John Robertson. John unfortunately couldn't be here this afternoon, but he does send his best wishes for this very, very special occasion. I would also like to firstly thank the Australian chapter of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, in particular Mr Hermes Shaheen, the Deputy Secretary General of the AUA, and of course to my very good friend Mr David, the Chairperson of the Working Committee, for all their tireless work in advocating for the plight of Assyrians in the diaspora, but especially here in our home in Fairfield. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to celebrate the Assyrian New Year with you all. And to each and every one of you, happy 6,764th New Year. It is significant, of course, that we celebrate the Assyrian New Year here at the Fairfield City Showground. Fairfield, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, is home to more Assyrians than any other local government area in the country. And I am very proud of this, and I know that Chris Bowen, Chris Hayes and Nick Lulich, as members who represent in the Fairfield local government area, are very proud of this as well. And it is here in Fairfield, ladies and gentlemen, we see the great contributions of the Assyrian community that they make not only to Fairfield, but to Sydney, New South Wales, and of course the wider Australian community. Whether it's from small business, education, social justice, youth development, migrant assistance and faith development, just to name a few. But of course the Assyrian community has embraced Australia, and Australia is made the richer by the contributions of the Assyrian Australians. Of course, the politics of Assyria and the struggles and the plight have been mentioned previously by my speakers with so much passion and enthusiasm. So I would like to do in my address, ladies and gentlemen, something about the very people that I represent in State Parliament that makes this community what it is today. And I can honestly say that I see it every single day in Fairfield, living and breathing in this community, the outstanding work of so many Assyrian legends. And when I think of Assyrian legends, I look no further than this year's Fairfield City Council Award Australia Day Award winners. Everyday individuals, ladies and gentlemen, caring and nurturing for the residents of Fairfield. And it's legends, ladies and gentlemen, like Basim Shamon, the Youth Citizen of the Year, who is sitting on my immediate right. A young and enthusiastic community representative who always puts himself before others and puts others first. Basim is a true role model in every sense by the way he involves himself in charity and humanitarian causes. And of course, no task is ever too big or small for Basim. Then there is, ladies and gentlemen, the Achievement Medallion recipient, Mr. Albert Mushi. Albert, who is sitting on my immediate left. Albert, like Basim, puts others first, always putting others first. Such is Albert's love of people. He never complains about his problems, but always has the time to listen and help others. And to let you know about the help that he does, that Albert, of course, has been struggling lately with some issues, but he was here until 12 o'clock last night helping the AUA and the Federation set up And that's the type of person that Albert is, and I thank him especially. But ladies and gentlemen, there are younger people as well, like Mr. Dean Odisho, who, like Basim and Albert, is actively involved in the community, giving of his time generously and once again putting others before self. And then finally, there is one lady that deserves really no introduction, but her name speaks for itself, and I refer to, of course, Carmen Lazar. Carmen Lazar, OAM. Carmen, to you on behalf of your community, I thank you. Yes, give Carmen a round of applause. I take my hat off to Carmen because at the Assyrian Resource Centre at the Crescent in Fairfield, every single hour, between 50 to 60 people are in that small little foyer coming in for assistance. And they are not only Assyrian, they are people of all walks of life. And that speaks volumes about the Assyrian community that we have here. Not only extending the hand of friendship to the Assyrian community, but extending the hand of friendship to all people in the 130 different nationalities that we have here in Fairfield. So ladies and gentlemen, I can go on and on and on. But if I did, we would be here until next week, acknowledging the wonderful work that the Assyrians play here in our community of Fairfield. So once again, I would like to congratulate Basim, Albert, Carmen and Dean, who make Fairfield, New South Wales and Australia great. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to call the Assyrian community a friend, and I wish each and every one of you a happy Assyrian New Year. Thank you, and God bless you all this year.
Thank you, Mr. Zingari. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is an integral part of the Young Assyrians of the Assyrian Universal Alliance. Please welcome to the stage the Vice Chair of the Young Assyrians, Mr. George Dadisho.
Thank you, Ninos. As introduced, my name is George Dadisho, and I'm an active member of the Young Assyrians. I am often asked, what does the Assyrian New Year mean to me? Before I begin, we need to understand what this day represents. Why is it celebrated? And conclude with, what does it mean to me and to each other? Firstly, Rish Shita, head or start of the year, or B-Nisan, the 1st of April, is a spring festival celebrated amongst Assyrians throughout the world. The festival is tied to the vernal equinox, which is the astronomical event where the sun crosses the celestial equator and marks the first day of spring. It is also the time where day and night are approximately the same all over the earth. The official Assyrian calendar is based on an estimated date of the first temple at Ashur, which was built in the same spirit. The Akkadian name of the spring festival, called Akitu, was revived. The Assyrian people have celebrated Akitu on the first day of April since 4750 BC. Akitu, derived from the Sumerian language meaning barley, marked two festivals celebrating the beginning of each of the 2 half years of the Sumerian calendar. The first marking the sowing of barley in autumn, and the second being the cutting of barley in spring. It was the spring festival celebrated in ancient Mesopotamia that has continued throughout the ages until today. As of 2014, of the year of our Lord and Saviour, it is the Assyrian year 6764. Assyrians celebrate B-Nisan by holding social events, including parades and parties, gather in social institutions, to listen to poets recite the story of creation, musicians who sing praises for the long history, and academics educating others on the meaning of this event. It is also a tradition in Assyrian villages for girls to gather flowers and herbs, which are then suspended under the house's roof. The bunches are referred to as B-Nisan, meaning the beard of April or spring. The event is largely celebrated by Assyrians across the globe, including Syria, Iran, Canada, Sweden, Georgia, Germany, New Zealand, Russia, Ukraine, and Armenia. One of the largest Assyrian New Year celebrations took place in Iraq in 2008, whereby over 60,000 people took part in the parade and preceding celebrations. In Turkey, the celebration of this festival was banned. Assyrians in Turkey were only first allowed to publicly celebrate B-Nisan in 2005 after organisers received permission from the government to stage the event. This was in light of democratic reforms adopted in support of Turkey's EU membership bid. Around 5,000 people, including large groups of visiting ethnic Assyrians from Europe, Syria and Iraq, took part in B-Nisan celebrations in Turkey. In the USA, the Honourable George Radonovich of the California State Assembly recognized the Assyrian New Year and extended his wishes to the Assyrian community. This was later followed by a letter from the then Californian Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger to the Assyrian community in California, congratulating them on this annual celebration. In Chicago, Illinois, it has become tradition to hold a parade down King Sargon Boulevard with Assyrian organizations, churches and businesses, each creating a float and participating in the joyous parade. In Australia, the Assyrian New Year Festival has been going strongly. The Assyrian New Year Festival has been held in Fairfield Showground to accommodate the 10 to 15,000 participants that you currently see and will see throughout the day today. So finally, what does the Assyrian New Year mean to me? It represents hope. A hope that springs inside of me for people not only scattered across the globe, but those in their ancestral homeland. It gives those an opportunity for new beginnings and an opportunity to create history in the hearts and minds of people around the world. By being here today, you have made me a proud Australian, someone who will be at the forefront of truth and honour, and someone who is a supporter of human rights and freedom. Every day I'm speaking to Australians from all walks of life who no longer believe in the motto, "She'll be right, mate," because she won't be unless each and every one of us takes action. When you think of a New Year's resolution, you think of something you want to achieve for that year. For me, my resolution will be to help my people achieve freedom in their homeland. My dream is for the Assyrian people to live in freedom and democracy, to live in peace and harmony with the rest of the world, and to keep their customs and culture alive as they see fit. This is my New Year's resolution, and I'll continue to strive for this every day. So I ask you as an Assyrian Australian, add this to your list of resolutions for this year and the years ahead to help the Assyrian people achieve the most basic of human rights in their ancestral homeland and to live free of fear and genocide. Thank you, and I wish you all a safe and prosperous Assyrian New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ladies and gentlemen, our last speaker this afternoon before the award celebrations has travelled all the way from Canberra to be with us today to celebrate the Assyrian New Year Festival. Her organisation has supported Assyrians not only physically but spiritually as well. Please welcome to the stage Mrs. Karen Boss of Christian Faith and Freedom.
Reverend Father Elia, Mr. Harmer Shahin, Mr. David, members of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, members of state and federal parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour and a privilege and a tremendous pleasure to celebrate the beginning of the Assyrian New Year at this very significant time in Assyrian history. A new year is a powerful symbol of a new beginning, heralding in renewed hope for greater peace and prosperity. And this new year, of course, as we've all heard, coincides with a highly acclaimed decision by the Iraqi cabinet to agree in principle to the Assyrian autonomous homeland for which Assyrians have yearned for centuries, and great is the rejoicing. Like all people gathered here, Christian Faith and Freedom, a small human rights organisation based in Canberra, has stood in solidarity with Assyrians enduring intense persecution and struggling to survive in their ancestral land and in the neighbouring nations to which they have fled. We have all shared their grief and horror at the irrefutable evidence of past and present atrocities, researched by eminent scholars like Dr. Anahit Khosrova, Dr. Sabri Atman, and Dr. Diamandis, Director of the Australian Institute for Holocaust and Genocide Studies. We have viewed and reported on all these atrocities, including videos, horrific images of Christians being executed for their faith and ethnicity, evidence that is endorsed by personal testimonies of our own Iraqi supporters. But we have also shared joy, principally at Carmen's OAM, followed by the momentous news, which I had the privilege of announcing at our recent conference, regarding the establishment of the Assyrian Autonomous Province in Nineveh. This restoration is a tribute to all members of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and Assyrians throughout the world, to their dedication, integrity, professionalism, and natural warmth and considerable charm. They have stood united nationally and internationally in their passionate pursuit of justice and freedom in the face of hostility and indifference. And I think all Australians, and I speak very much for myself, can be proud of our state and federal members of Parliament who have used their authority and influence with wisdom and courage in the honourable pursuit of justice and freedom for all people, most especially the Assyrians. I think especially and pay tribute to the Honourable Chris Bowen, to the Honourable Philip Ruddock, to Senator the Honourable Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, to Mr Chris Hayes MP, Mr Craig Kelly MP, and the Reverend the Honourable Fred Nile MLC, whose recent motion in support of the Assyrian homeland in the New South Wales Legislative Council achieved a truly remarkable feat of uniting all parties in unanimous approval, a tribute to a righteous cause to which he and many others continue to be devoted and loyal advocates. The massacres and persecution of Christian and other minorities is the greatest human rights crisis of our time. The lack of effective response from the international community is the greatest moral challenge to every nation that regards itself as representing a civilized people. Exposure to unimaginable human rights violations underscores the imperative to defend the Christian concept of the intrinsic value of every human life on which Australian law is based. Ninos Aron recently contributed a powerful presentation on the persecution of Assyrians in the biblical heartlands at our two-day Christian Faith and Conference last week. This year it was entitled Truth, the Guardian of Freedom, and I heartily endorse the call for freedom of respectful, analytical, honest speech. It is not only an indication or a demonstration of our liberty, it is also its guardian. Our conferences are a forum to make knowledge available of ideologies, both religious and secular, which promote and sanctify persecution, and to equip us all to preserve our God-given freedom in this land. On Iraqi soil, there is a deposit of Australian blood, shed in the cause of freedom and justice. And it's our prayer that ultimately this blood will not have been shed in vain. Under the leadership of our new National Director, Dr. Roy Barton, and one of Australia's leading religious liberty experts, Mrs. Elizabeth Kendall, we pledge our wholehearted support to this cause, to which we believe all Australians will respond wholeheartedly. We will do our utmost to rally member organisations of the Australian Coalition for the Persecuted Church to support the use of Australia's position on the UN Security Council to adopt a similar motion to that enshrined in Article 121 of the Iraqi Constitution. Many will remember the unveiling on the 17th of August 2010 of the Assyrian Genocide Memorial honouring 750,000 martyred Assyrians. I passed by that memorial again and it brought those memories back to mind. And I'd like to say that I've always wanted to extend to the Fairfield City Council my personal congratulations and gratitude for their courage in withstanding pressure at very high level to prevent the memorial from being erected. Australia would have suffered a great loss in integrity if that pressure had been allowed to succeed. And I remember on that momentous day, and I've spoken about this in public before, returning to the memorial when the celebrations were over and the crowds had dispersed, to take a photograph of that memorial to illustrate an article I was writing for the Christian Faith and Freedom newsletter. And I was very disappointed because it was towards dusk and it was an overcast afternoon, and the memorial just looked so sad and desolate and deserted. But as I stood there and remembered the sacrifice of those amazing Christians who died for their faith all those years ago and are still dying since, there was a sudden break in the clouds and a brilliant shaft of light, like a laser beam from heaven, from the setting sun, struck the metallic surface of that memorial and turned it into pure gold. And in that split second, I was able to capture it on film. I have never forgotten that because I look back on it now as a blessing from heaven, a foretaste, a promise of better things to come, of the light of Christ shining through all the darkness and bringing new life. In the challenging times ahead, the government and people of Iraq will be upheld in the Canberra House of Prayer for All Nations, where we have our small office. We are committed to pray that moral courage, wisdom and integrity will prevail, that Assyrian hope of freedom and justice will be realised in the proposed homeland, where they will, by God's grace, flourish and prosper in peace, to be an immeasurable blessing to the nation, as they are in Australia. Psalm 30 verse 5 assures us, weeping may remain for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Happy New Year 6764 to all our Assyrian brothers and sisters. May God bless you and everything you undertake in his name.
Thank you, Karen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before the conclusion of the program today, I would like to thank you sincerely on behalf of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation, every one of you, for accepting our invitation and for the truly inspiring presentations by all speakers. We wish you all the best in your future endeavours and seek your continued support. We also wish to express our sincere appreciation to today's sponsors, our volunteers, the artists, the singers, the Committee of the Young Assyrians of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, students of the Assyrian Diklat School of the Assyrian Australian Association, Mr. Simon Israel from M1 Media Productions, Miss Maureen Iramia for her decorations, and Mr. Walter Lolham, not only for photography, but I don't know how he's still standing, it must be on caffeine, for all the hard work that everyone put in till 6, 7 o'clock this morning. Some have not slept. Also, to Mr. George and Mrs. Shamiran Badal for preparing all the costumes for the dance and drama groups. And last but not least, Mr. Yuhanna Khamis of the Assyrian Star Folkloric Dancing Group, who are doing such an amazing job in preserving our ancient culture through dance. Before we finish tonight, I would like to call upon Mr. Herman Shaheen to come to the stage to present the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation Awards for 2014. Mr. Shaheen.
Can I also call upon my colleagues, Mr. David and Mr. Simon Isavian, to come to the stage? And also, could I ask Mr. Guy Zengari, MP, representing the Honorable Chris Bowen, to come to the stage as well? Thank you. It's my great honor to present this year 2 awards, the Friend of Assyria and the Australian Assyrian of the Year. Through the years, many people have dedicated their time, energy, and resources to serve their community. The Australian Assyrian of the Year award is to honor persons who are making significant contributions and advocate their time, action, talents, and dedication on behalf of the Assyrian community. It's our great honor to present this year's award to a well-known individual, Maestro Rabbi Alexander Shura Michalian. Please come to the stage. Thank you.
Alexander Shura Michalian was born in Ukraine, Russia in 1930. The family immigrated to Iran in 1938. In 1980, Shura, his wife Lily, and his late daughter Sabrina immigrated to the United States of America and settled in Flint, Michigan. In 1998, the Michalians' final and permanent move has been to Sydney, Australia. Shura's parents placed him under the direction of 2 famous Russian musician professors, Mr. Wickman and Mr. Shedrov, at the School of Music in the city of Hamel, Belarus, to study classical violin. Rabbi Shura, when at the age of about 12, met the renowned Assyrian musician, the late Rabbi William Daniel, and in turn became a student of his. Since moving to Australia in 1998, Shura was invited by the Assyrian Church of the East, Bishop Marmi Lazaya, to help coordinate and train the church choir, to which he currently devotes much of his time and expertise. He prepared music programs for children and wrote scores of religious and national hymns. In a short period of time, he was able to establish a choral and instrumental group of approximately 60 children. The magnificent performance of these groups during the Assyrian festivals and national days were captured by the audience and the government official guests. The Assyrian community takes pride with the maestro Shura Michalian, who not merely a master of music, but someone who has preserved and practiced what it truly means to be an Assyrian throughout his life and has truly earned the title of Rabbi. Congratulations.
مجتي قارجور القديا قد آها أورد آها شيتا آتورايت آها شيتا بشي ولتا قرابي شورا ميخاليان قا خلمت تلويدي قا أمتن جو خقلت موسيقى من دانتي لقوية جو إيران دانتي لوية جو أمريكا وهازران متخدن زودة من سريشن تيلي قداها أطرا رابي بقدون خا تري خبرانو بقدون تانا منقا ملت.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am not good speaker, but I can play violin, not bad. ميوكرم قلسك عشيشة نينوس إليا أرخ مخبة ميوكرم يقراتا إز جد يقير برلمان ميوكرم قيوم الجشمة بوليتيكاي وشو تاسن وشو تبياتن ومتناطريتا ميوكرم هرمز شاهين خلاب تكبرانا نات الرازات خيادة ولاية أطرايا برناس أستراليا بنومتي مخبة أنا بن يقرانوخن أخونوخم أمتا شورا ميخاليان شلامت ماريا هوا موخن شغدا يورا لي إديوم خبنيسان إيلي بيتخ إطراني ورد رخاني طير بوقالي خليا مرنا شوخ الماريا مياكرا هرم شاهين حبيت الروا باسيمي قدها أورد شابرتا مقربالهم قلية حبيت باسيمي رابا بتبايج خد خارج يدها يوم بريغة تاش إطنايا خبنيسان حلبتا آها خائقار وقدية وكبرزوج للمي خاليان إن شركت وكل أوديات المتناي وشتاسا هويرتوا ويا باسمتا اللي جندت منتا من ميوكا ديفيد تكبران برايوت متنت أستراليا روبا زحمت بجراشة أنا بارخلي وناطري كأمتنا أطريتها ختامة هو برخت شيتا خدتها مريا ناطر بنونة أمتها مش شلامة يدها بريتا مرخل نيسان زياخا حبيت الروبا باسيمة. Thank you.
Now can I call upon the Honorable Concetta Fairfield Wells to come to the stage. Thank you. The Friend of Assyria Award was instated to individuals who have demonstrated over a significant period of time a substantial contribution, advocacy, and services to the Assyrian community. The last time the Friend of Assyria Award was conferred in 2009 when it was presented to the Honorable Chris Bowen MP. This year, the Friend of Assyria Award will be presented to a well-known individual in recognition of his valuable contribution and for outstanding commitment shown to the Assyrian community. It's my great honor to announce that this year's recipient is Reverend the Honorable Fred Nile, MLC.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the 1st of May 2013, Reverend the Honourable Fred Nile, MLC, Vice President of the Australian Christian Party, in a historically unprecedented move at the request of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, moved a motion at the Parliament of New South Wales Legislative Council recognising the Assyrian, Greek and Armenian genocide. And on the 20th of March 2014, another motion was raised by the Reverend Nile focusing on the Assyrian demands for the establishment of an autonomous province in the heart of the Assyrian ancestral lands in the Nineveh Plains in northern Iraq. Both motions were passed unanimously, seconded and endorsed by all parties in the House.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's a great surprise to me, and I thank the organisers for considering me for this very important award. And I'd like to thank Herman Cheyenne and also David, who have been great friends and supporters of mine. And I'd like to share this award with them because it's through their efforts and information they provided to me and the work that they've done in the background that I've been able to move those motions. The motion last year to acknowledge the genocide of the Assyrians, the Armenians and the Pontius Greeks during the Ottoman Empire, and also to help me, after moving that genocide motion last year, to move the motion this year supporting the establishment of an Assyrian homeland in Iraq, which is historic because of the timing that the Iraq government, as you heard earlier, has only just agreed to establish 3 new provinces. I understand one of those could be a Kurdish province, one could be a Muslim province, and we're praying the 3rd province will be the Assyrian homeland province. So we need to pray earnestly to Almighty God as we celebrate the Assyrian New Year, that He will grace us with His power and might in leading the Iraq government to confirm that decision. And we'd like it to be done before the next election. We don't know, the new government may have different ideas, but the current government has made that a decision already to have 3 new provinces. So let's pray for God to bring about an amazing victory, to establish, after all these centuries, a homeland for the Assyrian people, especially a homeland for the Assyrian Christians that have suffered such terrible persecutions and genocide down through the centuries. So thank you again for considering that award, but the award should go to Herman Cheyenne and David. Thank you.
Can you now officially declare?
Good. Celebration. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the conclusion of the official program. I'm just going to ask the Honourable Reverend Fred Nile, MLC, to declare officially the opening of the Assyrian New Year Festival 6764. Get ready to dance and party.
It's my great pleasure to declare open the Assyrian New Year 6764 for this year. Thank you all for coming. God bless you.
شوية والله مقرقمة شوية الشرع هتخيله بابا سوانم والبيله رقد الشرع هتخيله بابا سوانم والبيله جوانة الأطول نبنيله جوانة الأطول نبنيله جوانة الأطول نبنيله جوانة الأطول نبنيله
سوغري خبيبه مشخانونا برسات البرخ ريشتيت كلوخون ريشيت عطوريتا ويبرختا كل ابن امتان ايجاتينا هراز اتلانت انت منتا من خيادة ولاية رايا داها شولة شافيرة ورقزول قديا وديوم يوم هراز ياوتو نختوخن بسيمين تيتوخن ادارتوخن وشاركتوخن اتلا هيوي قد مورخ دانات الشافير السوداني هذا رامش زمرتهم تنيت زمرت خطفة أنا عطورايا البته زمرت إلى من خبرانه هوسكاني قجا قميت بزمرنا قد يخون إتلي هي بقد مبسميتهم بخير بس بروا درخ أموخن خجت جانا على تسي جمان قد ينم خملة لخ بنبلي ريش خجا بيخ شاركت كل أخون قد مبسمة مور خدان صدق شغلنا عطرخ ما خيقونا باسي قد برخ كسلي بخ لفكي بقوطا باسي Merci مرحبا. Thank you. Thank you.
بنومتي مغبت لهي ويخم الله خون مروخون خدانا رابا باسمتا باين شمنا من نوخون خم الله خون رابا سباي هلا هاد هدية تازة شاروية لسياخة هدية خينا زمارب زمارب دسقي ومرقديلا ملك ملك قصاد اشتا بتوري واتلن فاير ووركس اتلن اطناب اللمن شيتون يدو خامن نوخم قارملا اختي مدر بماري وين هو يبرختر الشيت تطاطرايا الكلهم بنون وبنات تناطريتها زيلوخن مطيقارة مغزيل ناشط هكمة وارخي كل الليني الي قارة قوم تاطريتها زمارا خي جاني قد نزمريات وهرب زمري زمريات خينه بيني من زمري زمارا بس مالوخن رقديتون وخمليتون موريتون خدانا ربا باسبتا هدية مريوزة وقد صنيو أديشو نيخا نيخا مريزة جان وقد أسقى شريز مرياتو سوداني وقد مخملالو خون كلو خون رقديتون وشوريتون موريتون دانا باسمتا خي جانو خون وخي جانو تاطورت
أرخن مخبي كل خرابة بشانة تنتيه ألدا زياخة هتخا ربا زياخة خبنيسا هاي بريخة الكل أخون الكلخة أطرايم همنا كل أخون ديتون هديرة ولا هديرة بمعنى أخرين شيتوخنا وبرختا وبخيت على هما شاو خلقا ما قوشولانا دخت مريقو داها زمرت زميرالي زمرت أمتا ليبا يخقورا بأطرت نخرايا مي تخت خيروتا بأطرت ننوايا خي قانا أخون آزخك ما خي يقورا بخشاون وبخديان إن كل خابر صفوخن خلي خاسخ لقو خي اتلرابا زاماري هالبات قد شاركنا يديهم منا بطلب منكم قد كل خمورة خطر مهنيانتا رابا بشنة انتي ثانك يو هالبات أخشي باين متخرا منشيلي قد آها أويمي ليطن قم خبيتنا هدخا سودانتا قلت لا يوماني قم مدرسة لاني أزست شافرتا أسمر زيا قلت لا يوماني هزرالة قالي طننت تمنتن منه على ناطرة وعلى ناطركم كلكم ثانك يو خيتي خدي يا قورة كانك خطاطر كان خمالة زمرت تقاني جوان قاطرايا خدست شفقة عزيزة أدوار أن عزيزة جبارة آشو خيتو. Thank you.